Augusta. It's a very old South town. I wanted to try a new venue. Came to Fayetteville, got hooked up with my partner, business partner, Michael Lally, who is a great guy, and we shared a lot of the same passions about sustainable transportation. So we started a company that our logo does similar, but the company name is the same, Urban Mobility. DSCN is our underwriter for the Greenway Alliance, of course, you know, those are recent transit. I didn't put the UA logo on because they're a little touchy about that. And I couldn't find one for your organization, Paul, sorry. So, the first question. The Earth's urban population reached 1 billion in 1960. The world's urban population is 4 billion in 1 year. So it's been a quadruple win from 1960. You don't have very long. When this music stops, time is up. Too fast. Okay. 2017. So that's, let me stress, that's urban population. That's not rural population. And right within the last few years, the urban population has surpassed the rural population in the world for the first time. And as you can see, it's just really mounting fast. The next question. The Earth's automobile population reached 1 billion in what year? All right, there it is, 2010, 1 billion cars. And look at that. Forecast to reach 2 billion by 2030. Isn't that amazing? The interesting about this is the USA. Look how flat it is. We pretty much led the way in automobile liberation. We kind of saturated. The interesting thing is this was done back in 2004 by International Monetary Fund and NYU and some people. And they forecast a little bit continued growth, but we've actually flattened down and we've actually gone down in the last 10 years, believe it or not. But all these other places, China, Brazil, India, are growing like crazy. They're getting wealthier. They're buying cars, and you know, it's crazy. This was the 20th century American dream. Everybody wanted to live in this place, but unfortunately, in order to get there, you had to go to this, and this has kind of turned into a nightmare, hasn't it? So I don't know who wants to be there, but so we've kind of been rethinking things in the U.S. And so this is a study called Transportation and Transition that we just finished last December. Has some interesting statistics in it, done by the Public Research Interest Group and the Frontier Group. And so one of the things that they explore here is this question. The average American drove fewer miles in 2013 than 2004. What reduction in percentage was it? Okay, 7.6% fewer miles. That's pretty impressive. So, other interesting things is that 86 out of the 100 largest cities in the USA have seen a decline in the number of multiple car households. And the cities with the greatest declines in driving have also shown the greatest economic resilience. And you might think it was the opposite. You think, well, the cities that are doing bad economically are just, they can't afford to drive. Well, in reality, the cities that are driving less are doing better. In some cities, I mean, the way we designed so many of our cities, you're totally relying on it. You're dependent on the automobile. If you have a city where you're not dependent on the automobile, you have the ability to adjust your lifestyle, and to adjust your budget and everything else. So VMT means vehicle miles traveled. And the average increase in unemployment rate is actually lower in the darker blue, which shows the 15 urbanized areas with the highest per capita decline in vehicle miles traveled. And if you look at the middle one, the average decrease in median income is better, and the average increase in poverty level is better. So for all those three different metrics, you come out better in the cities that do less driving. This is a group called This Big City. It's an online journal that looks at urban design, and they talk about transportation and stuff. But they say that trading a long commute by auto for a short walk to work has the same effect on your psyche as finding a new love. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's interesting. I do know that if you walk more, you're healthier. You know, driving a car is not very good for your health. Walking is. let's look at the historical context. Question 4, which came first? The bicycle, the rail steam locomotive, or the internal combustion automobile? Okay, answer, bicycle. Bicycle is about 220 years old. Rail steam locomotive about 197, internal combustion automobile about 129. Interesting, look way back 42,000 years ago, we think that's when the shoe was invented. And then came the wheel and car, the horse, and some other things. Look at the ancient shoe here. This is from an archaeological dig. This is about 5,500 years ago. Pretty much a one size fits all. And today we have shoes for every occasion, right? So we've evolved a lot in our shoes. And we're continuing to evolve in our transportation as well. This is a dandy horse up here at the top, 1820. That is actually not a bicycle. That is a thing where you just coast. You don't have any pedals. So you just use your legs to kind of push yourself, and you go downhill really well. Probably the too well at times. But then became the ladies' philosophy, and on and on. I'm not going to name all the different vehicles. I will say that we now, this was the ubiquitous car of the 1990s. Then we had the Tesla recently, which is sort of the new car of the year, every year it seems like. This is a car that was developed by MIT called the Hiroko, or the city car, which is really cool. It's a low-speed electric that has the ability to turn on dime, and it folds up. You can see how it compresses on itself with a big sliding joint, so you can park it in a tiny space. The idea is as a car for the city, just like, it makes no sense to drive this thing in the city when you have low-speed roads. It's like using a sledgehammer to drive a finish nail. So, robotic cars, autonomous cars, that's a lot of research going on with that. They're probably not very far away. I mean, there are already some examples of those already on the road. No more worrying about texting and driving in cars than driving, right? So, then we have the Helio, which is supposedly going to be about a $7,000 car that's about 80 miles per gallon. It's got a little 3-cylinder engine, three wheels. Elf is almost like a bicycle. We've kind of come full circle where bicycles are coming back into vogue. And another thing that I think is on the verge is this kind of idea of mobility on demand with these cars that are basically smart, and they're like computers on wheels. And you call one up and it picks you up, and you just know where you're going to go. And you really don't even need to own your own car anymore. So millennials as a group are projecting cars and automobiles dependency more and more. That's why a lot of them, when they graduate from college, they want to go to cities that have walkable environments where they don't have to have a car. They want to have other ways to get around. Some people say it's because oil prices are high, and that's certainly part of it. This is an interesting graph. Look at the price of oil and how volatile it is, and look at what's really interesting is look what happened. After the big Iran-Iraq war, we got this big spike, and then we had a big recession, and then the price dropped way down in the 90s. So look what happened in the last recession. It didn't drop much, and that was an even worse recession. So there's something interesting happening here. And what it is that global oil demand is so strong because of all the automobiles that are coming online in China, India, and other places. China is buying far more cars now than the U.S., and they're starting to use more oil than we do. I think they've already surpassed us. Oops, sorry about that. This is a website blog that a guy that's very good called Shrink That Footprint. He's done a study of the 7 greenest vehicles. And let's go through these and see what you can do with the front of some of these. Number 7, he says, is the Nissan Leaf. Now, I should point out that his analysis is not just the cost to drive it, it's the cost to manufacture it, so it's a total cost. And the cost to refuel it, the cost to deliver fuel to the vehicle, everything. So Nissan Leaf came in number 7. The intercity coach is number 6, which intercity coach is the idea that basically this is the Greyhound bus that goes from one city to another city. And because it's operating at highway speeds, it's pretty efficient, and the assumption is that it's pretty full. obviously, there's only one person or two people in there, so it's very inefficient. But with a bus, you typically want to have pretty high occupancy loads. Light urban rail, even better. The assumption here is that you're dealing with electricity, which helps, and it's also going to be full. And the electric bike. Now, electric bikes, you don't see too many around here yet, but they're coming. They're already out selling regular bicycles in Europe and in China. And they're coming on gangbusters, and they're pretty cool. I think for Fayetteville, it's a nice solution to getting up on these hills. Because riding a regular bike, as most of you who don't do so know, Fayetteville is a challenge with these hills. And the most efficient of all is the bicycle, unless you want to call it walking, but this is just vehicle, so walking doesn't count. Bicycling in general has really been coming on strong. Obviously, Fayetteville's got a great trail system. This is a look at the top 50 bike-friendly cities, and we've got Tulsa and Little Rock in our area, which are on the list, which is nice. But every city now just about wants to be on that list because it's an economic development tool. I mean, it's a great little thing to have for you to be known as a bike-friendly city these days. All right, next one. What is the average miles per gallon of an internal combustion scooter? 55, 74, 80, or 110? Some of you probably only, a lot of them are one. Okay, it is 80 miles per gallon. 80 miles per gallon. Now, this is a list of all of the different types that he has on his list. He's got a couple that I think should be on there. One is low-speed electric vehicles, and one is e-bikes, and they would come in very low. But it's interesting. Of course, you start with a large car, and most of it is in fuel. The manufacturing is the dark, but you get down to electrics, and it's mostly in manufacturing, very little in fuel. But some interesting things there. Obviously, it makes a big difference if electric car is on a grid or if it's on solar. And so I think, as our grid becomes cleaner and more renewable, the case for electric cars becomes stronger. Okay, so here's another one. The 2006 fatality rates for motorcyclists involved in accidents were greater than those for conventional automobiles by a factor of what? 3, 17, 29, or 37? According to the Consumer Reports, National Highway Transportation Administration. There it is, 37. They're amazing. Yeah, they're really far more dangerous. Their fuel economy, as it says, 60 to 100. The other thing that people often don't realize is that they don't have catalytic converters, so they actually put a lot of particulate in the air. They've actually been banned in a lot of cities in China. They have such pollution there. Okay, so this is a graph by Embark, which is the Sustainable Transportation kind of think tank of the World Resources Institute. And they're looking at innovations in mobility, and this is number of cities. And you look at some of these things that are really coming on strong. Car sharing, what's that? 1,000 in like the last 15 to 20 years. Complete streets, 455. Bike sharing, 500. Some of the things that I have circled, I think, are particularly interesting to us because I think they set up nicely for this area. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute. Well, here's one, complete streets. Does everybody know who knows what complete streets is? You guys heard of that?
No.
Okay, complete streets is a program that is developed by Smart Growth America. And the idea is that the streets be designed for all modes of transportation, not just automobiles. So cars, pedestrians, skateboarders, whoever, and it's not a very rigid, formulaic approach, and every community can tailor it to their own needs to a certain extent. But the basic idea is that it's a much more inclusive approach to design the streets. And people are as important as cars. Bus rapid transit is a form of mass transit that utilizes buses, and it's coming on strong because it's very cost effective. You have a couple of buses typically getting together. You have a raised platform so that you can enter and board and deboard very quickly. and you pay here rather than on the bus. And they have multiple doors that open like a subway. So it's very quick on and off. You typically have a dedicated lane, and they have the ability to get priority at traffic lights. So I think that's one of the things that Paul might talk about a little bit. So another thing, car sharing. This is the Auto Lease car sharing program in Paris. Every one of those little green dots is a station where you can get your cars, and the red ones are currently in use and green ones available. So this is typically all done with on your computer or your smartphone, and you can find out where they are and get one. And the idea is that in a lot of these areas, people are saying, well, I really don't need to own a car anymore. I'm just going to do this, and it makes a huge difference in the life. There's a lot of benefits to that. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But here's the next question. There are roughly 100,000 car share members in the USA in 2006. 6 years later, the number had grown to what number? Okay, the correct answer, 900,000. Pretty impressive growth. Yeah. And so some of the metrics of sustainable transportation, we have a little, actually our company needs a little tag and do the math, but it works well for this presentation. So let's do the math on resource utilization rate, transport dollars, trade deficit, traffic congestion, parking efficiency, particularly greenhouse gas pollution, walkability, and real estate value. And all those things can be improved with sustainable transportation. They're all good things for this community. Here's the next question. What is the average utilization rate for a non-commercial automobile in the United States? That means when is it used, when is it not used? It's not used when it's not being driven. So how often is it driven, basically, is the question. Okay, this is Amory Lovins, one of my heroes with the Rocky Mountain Institute. He says 4% average asset utilization. They sit idle 96% of the time. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it's not true for everyone.
Not in Arkansas.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a graphic, a photo, and I want you to think about Ross Perot when he's always talking about that great sucking center. Those are vacuum cleaners. They're sucking up all your dollars, going to Houston, Baton Rouge, Saudi Arabia, Detroit, Tokyo, leaving this economy. Okay? We don't make cars, we don't produce oil, we don't have any big insurance companies here. So think about how many dollars that we're wasting. I mean, we could stay in the local economy if we didn't spend so much on transportation. And how much do we spend? Well, think about the old ball and chain. Question 9. In 2012, the average total monthly expense for an American automobile. What do you think it was? All right. $650 a month. That is over an 8-year period of ownership. Now, if you have a used car and it's paid for, then that's not going to be true. But most people finance their cars for a period of 8 years. At average, people get a new car in 8 years. And if you count depreciation, fuel, interest, insurance, maintenance, taxes, and add it all up, incredibly, it's $650 a month. And that's probably, if you had an investment advisor, they would tell you that's probably the worst investment you can make. Look at electricity versus oil. Look at all this volatility in oil. Look how stable electricity is. You get the seasonal variations. And it's actually adjusted for inflation, it's gone down. So, I'm just going to say, there's a lot of belly aching now about how electric rates are going to go up with the new regulations. But we've been pretty fortunate with electricity rates. Gasoline, meanwhile, is all over the place, and every time we have a big spike, we get an R, which is a recession. See? Just about every recession we've had in the last half century has been preceded by an oil shock. All right, let's talk about traffic congestion and parking efficiency. Doesn't that look like fun? All right. Anybody recognize that city? That's Detroit. Detroit, I had a photograph I meant to get in here, but I forgot. I didn't get it. Detroit was like the 1920s. It's a beautiful city. And then they did this little thing called the Model T came along, and all these other cars, and they became the production capital of the world for automobiles, and they fell in love with their automobiles, and they built all kind of roads and built all kind of parking lots and parking garages. These are parking garages, these are surface lots in downtown Detroit, and today it looks like this. It's bankrupt. It looks like a bombed out city. Has anybody been to downtown Detroit? Have you seen it? I mean, it's awful. That's what happens if you totally surrender your urban design to design for the automobile. How many parking spaces are there in the USA per automobile? Well, these are the guys who did the study, and their answer was, we don't know, we can't figure it out. But they said it was between 3 and 8, somewhere between 3 and 8, and probably around 5. That's pretty amazing, I think. I mean, you've got one at your house, you've got one where you work, you've got one at the shopping center, you've got one at the library, wherever it is. I don't know, on the street. We've got so many parking spaces, it's amazing. So, if you could hang out in Paris or in the parking lot, where would you go? The city car is the car I mentioned that was developed at MIT, and this is just another graphic showing how it compresses and how small it is compared to a large car. And obviously you can get a lot more into a small environment. When you're driving around an urban environment, we need the car that goes 100 miles an hour. Really, 25, 30 is probably all you really need. This is a graphic showing how much space a bus versus cars versus cyclists take. 40 occupants in each case. And there's a big difference, obviously. All right, so the transportation sector in the U.S. Is about 28% of the energy consumed. And when I got into sustainable transportation, sort of decided to make a career of it, I had come from architecture, I was an architect, and I've been very involved in the U.S. Green Building Council and sustainable buildings. And I just got to thinking, why isn't there a U.S. Green Building Council for transportation? Why don't we have a LEED rating system for vehicles? And there's just not much public awareness of it. And so, with 28% of our energy use in that sector, it seems crazy, doesn't it? That we're not really focused more on that. This is the final bonus question. How many pounds of CO2 are produced by the burning of 1 gallon of gasoline? I'm surprised that I didn't even know this until 3 or 4 years ago. I'm surprised how many people don't know it today. One gallon of gas produces, whoops, you're going to take my word for it, 19.6, that's according to the U.S. Energy Administration, 19.6 pounds, and actually more, because you're combining carbon and oxygen, when you have that chemical reaction of combustion, you're actually having something that weighs more than the fluid itself. All right, so if you look at the particulate and greenhouse gas pollution of the math, and this is in particular the CO2. This is CO2 pounds per mile of different vehicles. F-250, pretty heavy, 1.3 pounds per mile. Then you drop way down to a Honda Accord, then to a Honda Civic, then to a Toyota Prius, and Nissan Leaf, and this is a less productive vehicle. And a bicycle obviously is even less. And I don't have any figures on a bicycle because it's totally dependent on how much food you eat. Where you get your food. You get your food local, does it come from the outside of the world? I don't know. So, utility source greenhouse gas pollution. Okay, we don't do real well here. This is us at 38 mpg equivalency. So this is a relative comparison of how clean the grid is in different parts of the country. So if you have an electric car in California or even in Alaska, you're doing great. Down here, not so good. So we need to get our grid cleaner in this part of the country in order to reap more benefits from having electric transportation. Northwest Arkansas, so let's talk about our area. Has anybody seen this study? How many people have seen this? Yeah? So one of the things, this is done by the Center for Neighborhood Technology out of Chicago. One of the things they found was that Northwest Arkansas, I think some of you alluded to, we drive a lot here. Well, we do. The cost of transportation in Northwest Arkansas for a lot of people is higher than the cost of housing, which is upside down for most places. And so they were saying that because our transportation costs were so high, that it was hurting us, our economic competitiveness with other regions. And so I'm going to turn it over to Paul to talk about some of the transit alternatives that we have under study right now.
Okay, I'm not going to take too much time because this is Bob's show. Just to let you know, we are working on an alternatives analysis study. And what that is looking at some kind of fixed guide link that would go up and down our corridor. And we looked at a number of such systems, but the analysis is focusing on just three, and that's light rail, which on this map would go on a new location west of I-49 now.
The green one?
Yes. The other one would be a commuter rail, and that would be on the Arkansas Missouri Railroad track, right next to it, and then also the bus rapid transit, which would be mostly up and down 71. So that's what we're doing a study on, and so we've run a transportation model to come up with some estimates of ridership in the future and things like that. I'm not able to give any conclusions, basically we haven't come to the conclusions yet. But this was all started, I think, by the University of Arkansas Community Design Center in the early 2000s. Just to give you a brief history, they had a conference about it, and we had a delegation that went to Washington, and they came back and said, well, you need to do this alternative analysis study if you're ever hoping to get federal dollars for it. And so after several years of trying to obtain some money, we did get a grant from the FTA, Federal Transit Association, agency to do the study. We contracted with an engineering firm called URS to do the study, and we had some public meetings, we had stakeholder groups, and we're right now in the finalization process, and once we get the final draft, that will go to our technical advisory committee for more thorough vetting and review. And so I'm not going to promise anything, but within, say, the middle of this summer, we hope to have it concluded. Anyway, anything I'd like to point out, though, is that in all of our public sessions and stakeholder groups, everybody brought up, well, what about how do you get people to the stations and away from the stations? Because if you take a train up to Rogers or something, how do you get to where you're going to work? And the study calls for, first of all, I don't have conclusions, but preliminary conclusions are that we really need to think about in terms of redoing our land use policy to really emphasize downtown development. And you see this happening right now in Springdale. It's becoming a lot of investments going into Springdale, and that probably was stimulated a lot by the Razorback Greenway Trail, because that's going to go through there. And you see the old theater is going to be renovated and things like that. So